Approximately 2 weeks ago, a rather disconcerting situation unfolded, causing a significant shift in my perception, transitioning swiftly from unwavering trust in my spouse to a state of profound doubt. Let me take you back to the beginning, where the seeds of our relationship were sown. It was during my youth, at the tender age of 19, that I first crossed paths with my now wife. Our love burgeoned with remarkable speed, enveloping us in its warm embrace. She bore the responsibility of a 4-month-old child from a previous liaison, a fact that didn't deter our journey together. The biological father had long been absent from the picture, and thus, I willingly embraced the role of a father figure despite my earlier dreams of biological parenthood. Circumstances led us to opt for adoption, a decision that, surprisingly, aligned seamlessly with my aspirations. From that point forward, our lives intertwined, weaving a narrative akin to that of any ordinary family. Our union was formally cemented just last year, marking a milestone in our journey. While familial ties weren't particularly strong on her end, she did maintain a semblance of connection with a pair of cousins. These familial acquaintances, whom I grew to appreciate, seemed like upstanding individuals. Among them was Max, a cousin with whom she shared a history. She recounted a somewhat awkward incident from their adolescence, where, in a fit of youthful folly, he attempted a kiss. Yet, over the years, Max became a familiar presence, particularly during our annual Christmas gatherings. Compared to her other relatives, who exuded an aura of formality, Max's down-to-earth demeanor resonated with me. Recent times witnessed a rekindling of familial ties, with Max and my wife attending various gatherings together. Given our single-car household and my work commitments, it was customary for Max to ferry her to these events. Initially, nothing seemed awry about this arrangement. After all, they were cousins, and her conduct betrayed no signs of deviation from the norm. However, a peculiar incident unfolded one fateful evening as I sat engrossed in the glow of the television. My wife, seemingly out of the blue, made a passing comment about my interactions with a female colleague from work. Our relationship, characterized by its openness and trust, typically weathered such remarks without a hitch. Yet, on this occasion, her words carried an unspoken weight, hinting at an undercurrent of suspicion previously absent from our dynamic. This departure from the norm raised an unsettling question: could she be projecting her own transgressions onto me? Then, fate dealt its hand with a cruel twist. 2 weeks ago, on a day marked by my absence from work, I found myself idly perusing my email inbox on Facebook. Amidst the mundane clutter of digital correspondence, a message from her cousin, Max, stood out like a jagged shard of glass amidst a sea of debris. We had recently discussed plans to attend a local baseball game, and I assumed his message pertained to this arrangement. However, the contents of his missive sent a shiver down my spine. "I'd like to see you on your knees." Confusion morphed swiftly into clarity as the realization dawned upon me my wife's account was still logged in, and Max's words were intended for her. A torrent of emotions surged within me, a tempest of anger, betrayal, and disbelief. With trembling hands and a heart heavy with foreboding, I embarked on a journey through their digital dialogue, a quest for answers amidst a landscape fraught with uncertainty. Unveiling his inappropriate advances despite her reiterated declarations of "but I'm married" and "no, I'm married," these refusals resonated with a hint of hesitancy, as if she was rejecting him out of obligation rather than genuine disinterest. The revelation left me repulsed and utterly flabbergasted. Despite the absence of any explicit mention of transgression in their exchanges, and her resolute denial of any wrongdoing, albeit gently, I found myself at a crossroads. Could I conclusively assert she was cheating? Upon her return home, after our son had been tucked into bed, I felt compelled to confront her about the distressing situation. Instantaneously, she dissolved into a torrent of hysterics and tears, her words a desperate plea of innocence. "I didn't do anything. I didn't know how to tell you. I was just hoping he'd stop." Both of us carried the heavy burden of childhood trauma inflicted by familial acquaintances, leading us down the winding path of therapy. As a result, we honed our communication skills, particularly regarding comfort zones, boundaries, and articulating our responses to unwelcome advances. Despite my love for her and my desire to believe her, the manner in which she withheld this crucial information, coupled with her seemingly unaffected demeanor, planted seeds of doubt in my mind. I assured her of my belief in her innocence and sought her input on how to address the situation. Initially, she suggested that she inform him of my awareness and insist on him ceasing contact. Yet, her resolve wavered, as she harbored hopes that his advances would naturally dissipate. This reluctance incensed me, though I restrained my fury and vowed to confront him myself. This was my wife, and if she was being threatened, I would not hesitate to intervene. If not, then the specter of infidelity loomed large. Upon messaging him, I received no response, though he acknowledged the message. My wife maintained that I should have allowed her to handle the matter, yet I countered that remaining silent was simply not an option. Eventually, she acquiesced, acknowledging the validity of my actions. Though semblances of normalcy returned, 3 days later, I returned home to find her in tears once more. When pressed for an explanation, she attributed her distress to her interaction with Max. "You should have let me handle it," she lamented. We revisited our discourse on my refusal to passively endure threats against her. During this exchange, she cast me a brief yet revealing glance, suggesting she did not perceive my intervention as overbearing. Concluding the conversation, we mutually agreed that my actions were justified. Yet, 2 days later, as I retired to bed around 2 o'clock ante-meridiem, I overheard her engaged in conversation, laughter dancing in the air. This deviation from the norm struck me as unusual, though she dismissed it as a call with her mother regarding our child's upcoming birthday. However, doubt lingered in my mind. At this juncture, I've resolved to feign ignorance, opting to observe the unfolding situation from a more comfortable vantage point. However, the following day, as she's once again enveloped in tears, I find myself at my breaking point. Her emotional instability over the past 2 weeks has stretched my patience thin. When I muster the courage to inquire if her tears are once again related to Max, she divulges a distressing revelation. She attempted to extend an olive branch, reaching out to him to apologize for her perceived mishandling of the situation, yet he remains obstinately silent. With the dawn of a new day, and the realization that she'll be heading to work in a mere 6 hours, I formulate a plan of action. I intend to extend an apology for my outburst and implore her to engage in a candid discussion later that evening. It's Sunday, a day when our son typically spends the night at my parents' house. Though I'm not proud of it, I've resigned myself to the inevitability of snooping through her personal effects. If my search yields nothing incriminating, we'll engage in a frank discussion delving into the origins of this debacle, how best to support her, and the subsequent steps to be taken. My love for her remains unwavering, yet the mere thought of her being subjected to intimidation by someone who should hold her in esteem fills me with anguish. However, if my investigation yields anything dubious or implicates her in any manner, I'm resolved to terminate the relationship without hesitation. I harbor no belief in the efficacy of marriage counseling in cases of infidelity, and even if I did, the incestuous nature of this betrayal precludes any possibility of reconciliation. An update reveals a sleepless night, culminating in the preparation of breakfast upon her awakening. I extend an olive branch, acknowledging the impropriety of my outburst and suggesting a candid discussion later that evening. To my surprise, she acquiesces, displaying a level of composure that belies the tumultuous emotions roiling beneath the surface. Emboldened by the advice gleaned from various sources, I steel myself for the inevitable invasion of her privacy. Despite her composed demeanor, I resolve to proceed with the investigation, driven by a potent cocktail of disgust, hatred, and anger, emotions that inexorably steer me toward the precipice of divorce. Upon delving into her emails, I'm met with a revelation so repugnant, so vile, that words fail to adequately convey the depth of my revulsion. An innocuous email bearing the subject line "Yummy" reveals a damning image, a lewd photograph featuring her cousin with an unmistakable substance adorning his visage. The subsequent exchange lays bare a sordid narrative, detailing his encounters with random men and their shared history of sexual exploits. My heart sinks as I grasp the chilling reality that this abhorrent betrayal transpired a year ago, unbeknownst to me. Upon reading through the transcript, a disheartening revelation surfaced, shedding light on a past dynamic of frequent engagement between them, a pattern that seemed to taper off after our union and marriage. Despite years spent together prior to our nuptials, She eventually resorted to the familiar refrain of "I'm married," yet it became increasingly apparent that his persistence in seeking her touch despite this assertion was perhaps rooted in his proclivity for the thrill of the forbidden. His apparent enjoyment in defying boundaries cast a shadow over the years I spent nurturing our relationship and raising her child, leaving me with an acute sense of betrayal. Armed with printed copies of their incriminating conversations, I resolved to undertake further reconnaissance in pursuit of incontrovertible proof, mindful of the need to safeguard my own well-being in the face of mounting uncertainty. A pack of cigarettes, purchased in a moment of weakness, served as a temporary balm for the searing rage that smoldered within me, offering fleeting respite from the relentless onslaught of emotions that threatened to consume me whole. As the reality of their explicit discussions regarding unprotected liaisons with other men sank in, I found myself confronting the grim specter of potential health risks compounded by the realization that my own sexual encounters with her had been devoid of protection. A gnawing sense of dread settled over me as I contemplated the arduous months ahead, fraught with anxiety as I awaited the results of the impending sexually transmitted diseases tests, a sobering reminder of the irreversible consequences of their reckless behavior. Contemplating the prospect of confronting his wife with irrefutable evidence in hand, I grappled with the futility of seeking closure in the aftermath of such profound betrayal. The foundations of our marriage, once thought to be unshakable, lay shattered at my feet, leaving behind a void that no apology could hope to fill. Resolved to sever all ties and embark upon a new chapter of my life untethered to the shackles of deceit, I resolved to pursue divorce proceedings, ensuring that she would receive nothing in return for her treachery. Despite the absence of overt signs of depression or sadness, a simmering cauldron of rage burned within me, tempered only momentarily by the soothing embrace of nicotine. Unable to bear the thought of being in their presence any longer, I vowed to maintain a safe distance, mindful of the precarious balance between restraint and the primal urge to seek retribution. An update regarding my stepson provided a modicum of relief, dispelling the unsettling specter of incest and offering a semblance of closure to an otherwise tumultuous chapter in my life. Though the past few days had been an emotional roller coaster ride, punctuated by moments of anguish and despair, the clarity afforded by these revelations served as a beacon of hope, guiding me towards the path of healing and renewal. Having engaged in an intimate relationship with my cousin Max's wife for an extended duration, the gravity of our affair dawns upon me, prompting a realization that, in essence, she was cheating on Max with me. Seeking legal counsel, I subsequently embarked on a poignant journey to confront Max's wife, a conversation that unraveled a web of heartbreak and disgust in the wake of the incestuous revelation. During our exchange, I disclosed Max's penchant for engaging in unprotected liaisons with random internet men, accompanied by explicit photographs showcasing his debauched exploits. Despite my vehement protests against such recklessness, witnessing the visceral impact of this revelation on his wife, as she insisted on viewing the incriminating evidence, served as a stark reminder of the profound betrayal that had transpired. Following an emotionally charged evening spent in a hotel, where I sought solace and counsel from my mother, brother, and father, my return home was met with a palpable sense of turmoil. Despite my wife's desperate attempts to salvage our crumbling relationship, I remained resolute in my decision to end it, a decision rooted in the irrefutable evidence of her infidelity that I held in my possession. However, her vehement denial of any wrongdoing, coupled with attempts to shift blame onto Max's wife, revealed a fundamental misunderstanding of the circumstances that had led to my decision. In a moment of clarity amidst the chaos, I made the difficult decision to contact her father, recognizing the urgent need for familial support in the face of her emotional distress. As I retreated once more to the sanctuary of my hotel room, I found solace in the supportive messages from Max's wife, a testament to the unexpected alliances forged amidst the wreckage of shattered trust and broken vows. Could have ever envisioned having, not even in our wildest dreams. The gravity of the situation is immense, overwhelming, as she reveals the painstaking research she's conducted, unearthing conversations about intimate encounters dating back to the ancient era of MySpace in 2010. It's a revelation that shatters the fragile semblance of trust I had built, the foundation of our relationship crumbling beneath the weight of her discoveries. She discloses how what I thought was a harmless teenage crush was, in fact, a precursor to a much deeper betrayal, occurring during a time when social media platforms were still in their heyday. The realization hits me like a ton of bricks, the timeline of deceit stretching far beyond what I had ever imagined, finally pushing me over the edge of emotional restraint. Tears stream down my face unabated as I confront his wife, the woman who shares my pain, and together we seek solace in the office of my legal counsel. Through the tumultuous aftermath, Max is gripped by panic and despair, frantically attempting to locate his estranged wife, clinging to the futile hope of dispelling the mounting evidence as mere misunderstanding. The revelation that Max and his ex-wife reside in a residence owned by his parents adds another layer of complexity, as familial ties strain under the weight of betrayal. His father's unfounded suspicions further exacerbate the situation, painting a distorted image of events that only serve to fuel the flames of animosity. Meanwhile, my own father, unprompted but steadfast in his support, offers refuge in the form of temporary accommodation, a gesture of kindness amidst the chaos. Confronting my employer with unfiltered honesty, I carve out a respite from the turmoil, navigating through the emotional wreckage with the unwavering determination of a ship amidst a tempest. Yet amidst the chaos, there's a void, a profound loss echoing through the chambers of my heart as I grapple with the absence of a stepson I've nurtured and cherished for 6 formative years. The memories of caregiving, of late-night feedings and comforting embraces, serve as bittersweet reminders of a bond now severed, leaving me adrift in a sea of longing and regret. The prospect of therapy looms on the horizon, a beacon of hope amidst the storm, offering the promise of healing through the power of dialogue and self-reflection. And as I brace myself for the arduous journey ahead, confronting the unknown with a stoic resolve, I cling to the fleeting certainty of the present moment, steeling myself for the trials yet to come. Last night, I engaged in a phone conversation with my soon-to-be ex, and her demeanor caught me off guard. Initially accepting of the divorce, she didn't resist, but as our discussion unfolded, she grew emotional, tearfully attempting to explain her relationship with her cousin, insisting that throughout our years together, their interaction was limited to random dirty texts with no physical aspect. She seemed to be on the verge of a stormy revelation. Now, she's adamant about acquiring my car, citing practicality due to our disparate work commutes. While I ponder the idea of relinquishing it and procuring a new vehicle an inevitable necessity, I fear that conceding now might establish a precedent that extends far beyond this moment. Amidst these deliberations, the prospect of vacating my apartment in the knowledge that she'll be moving in with her family fills me with reluctance. Perhaps I'll postpone any decisions until she's departed, likely within a week according to her Facebook updates, and then broach the subject with my landlord. Given the challenges posed by the pandemic, he may welcome the idea of retaining a tenant. Later, I accompanied Sherry to meet Max, though I remained at a distance to avoid potential conflict. Passing the time at a Sonic drive-thru, I listened to music, periodically purchasing drinks to justify my presence, awaiting her text for pickup. Upon her return, she seemed visibly distraught, relaying Max's attempts to shift blame onto her for the prolonged nature of their affair. Claiming that the alleged encounters were part of a fabricated narrative, he attributed the tale to a single individual rather than the plethora of men previously implied. While the veracity of his claims remains dubious, Sherry's devastation speaks volumes, underscoring the emotional toll of this turbulent saga. Appearance, seemingly fatigued, failed to acknowledge the presence of his daughter until she herself initiated conversation on the matter. Observably distraught, I escorted her back home. Despite her evident distress, she managed to maintain composure for the sake of her child. Out of concern, I opted to stay and assist with dinner preparations, demonstrating how to whip up improvised garlic bread and pasta. During our time together, I learned of her habit of singing a French lullaby to her daughter, a detail that left me charmed. However, amidst these interactions, I couldn't help but notice that some of my son's old baby furniture had found its way into Sherry's possession, serving as a stark reminder of the tangled mess that our lives had become. As I departed, our farewell was marked by a lingering hug devoid of any verbal exchanges, culminating in a kiss on the cheek, a gesture that left me buoyed with a sense of warmth and affection for the remainder of the evening. The sheer magnitude of the upheaval in my life at present is difficult to fully comprehend. Struggling to reconcile feelings of intense animosity and fury with moments of fleeting tenderness and affection is an experience I never anticipated. In spite of the tumultuous circumstances, I couldn't help but inquire about her well-being. In a moment of vulnerability, she confessed that, in my absence, she had managed to find a semblance of peace, save for moments when my stepson expressed longing for my presence. Delving deeper, she admitted to having been unhappy in our marriage long before our recent upheaval, citing a loss of romantic attachment rather than animosity or resentment. Our intimate life, once vibrant, had gradually lost its spark, a subject we had discussed at length throughout our marriage. Our desires had shifted over time, leading to a role reversal in pursuit dynamics, a divergence that ultimately strained our relationship. While I craved pursuit and challenge, she sought reciprocation and affirmation, a dynamic that inevitably led to discord. Despite our efforts to adapt, it became apparent that our needs were no longer aligned, signaling the demise of our marital bond. Embracing the role of a confidant, listening to her divulge details about her reproductive desires, preferences, and the dynamics of her affair with Max, I couldn't shake off a sense of detachment. The tumultuous revelations seemed to ricochet off me, devoid of any tangible impact on my life. As she unraveled the intricacies of their clandestine meetings disguised under family gatherings and mundane excuses, I found myself growing increasingly disinterested. It was as if I had been thrust into the role of her confessor, bearing witness to her secrets without any real stake in their repercussions. The news of her emotional turmoil over the loss of an aunt, later revealed to be tears of joy upon learning of Sherry's pregnancy, struck me with a profound sense of betrayal. To think that I had once held her in my arms, consoling her over another man's triumph, left me grappling with a newfound wave of disillusionment. Yet, as I grappled with the weight of my wife's revelations, the notion of being tethered to her for the rest of my life loomed ominously. The thought of navigating the complexities of co-parenting and shared custody arrangements with a woman whose actions had shattered the foundation of our marriage filled me with a sense of apprehension. In the face of such uncertainty, I found myself grappling with the daunting prospect of forging a new path forward, one that would inevitably redefine my role as a father and shape the contours of my future. Haywire, but somehow falling into place in a twisted sort of way. The complexities of navigating parenthood amidst the wreckage of a failed marriage weigh heavily on my mind, casting shadows of doubt and uncertainty over the path ahead. The prospect of mustering the emotional fortitude to rise above my own turmoil for the sake of my child feels like an insurmountable challenge, leaving me teetering on the brink of surrender. Yet, amid the chaos and heartache, there remains a glimmer of hope, a beacon of light in the form of my impending reunion with my stepson. This Friday night rendezvous holds the promise of rekindling the flickering embers of paternal love, offering a fleeting respite from the tumultuous storm brewing within. However, as I brace myself for this bittersweet reunion, I find myself grappling with the aftershocks of Sherry's revelations. The sudden cessation of communication from Max, coupled with the startling revelation of his newfound relationship, sends shockwaves through our already fractured existence. With divorce looming on the horizon and uncertainty clouding our future, I find solace in the quiet companionship of Sherry, our tentative steps towards romance offering a semblance of stability amidst the chaos. As we cautiously navigate the uncharted waters of our evolving relationship, I can't help but marvel at the intensity of our connection, the magnetic pull drawing us together like moths to a flame. The simple gesture of her bringing me dinner at work speaks volumes, a silent testament to the depth of her affection and unwavering support during these turbulent times. In her embrace, I find solace, a refuge from the storm raging outside, a fleeting moment of tranquility amidst the chaos of our unraveling lives. Despite the tumultuous nature of our circumstances, there exists a fragile sense of optimism, a glimmer of hope amidst the wreckage of shattered dreams and broken promises. As I navigate the treacherous waters of divorce and parenthood, I cling to the promise of brighter days ahead, fueled by the unwavering belief that love, in all its complexity, has the power to heal even the deepest wounds of the heart.